Hey guys, what's up? My name's Jay Fido. Welcome back to another episode of the MPU podcast. I'm here joined by one of my college roommate and friends, Nicholas Arborio. How we doing, my man?
I am doing fantastic today, Jay.
Oh man, probably better than me right now. I'm freaking sweating putting up this setup here. Last minute, couple changes to the MPU podcast. We now have a studio. Just kidding. We're here. We're here in my, studio, humble abode, whatever you'd like to call it. And this is another episode of the MPU podcast, man. I'm happy to have you here. Talked a little bit to my network. Talked to some people that, in my program this past couple of weeks, and it's been cool working with you again. And obviously we're college roommates, so it's pretty cool. Bringing you onto my network and people that I'm established with now. So, yeah, man, I'm happy to have you here, dude. Thanks for coming.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, a pleasure. Meanwhile, I absolutely am drenched in sweat. And people are gonna laugh.
Jay's been running around like a madman out here trying to set this up here. You should have seen the amount of steps he got in a short 5 minutes
I
while
wish
we were
you
here.
could see, actually what I put into this. Like, there's cords everywhere. I'm sweating bullets. But shout out to the Miami Heat. We did it, man. Heat in 7. Shout out to Tucker Hartman and Richie Watson up at school. I know it's a tough one for you boys. C suck. Anyways, had to get that in there. But, man, thanks for coming, Nick. I appreciate you joining the NPU podcast, man, and getting a chance to come on, talk to my network, talk to, obviously, like I said, wanted to go over a little bit about your career, like who you are, and just kind of let you take it away from there, man. Like, give a brief little intro to our audience, man.
Yeah. First of all, thanks for having me.
Of course, dude.
We've been talking about this for some time now, and it's finally to see it fruitate now. So
yeah, man. Yeah, for sure. It's been a long time coming. I mean, Nick has been my friend now for the past 4 years, so it's like getting to work with you and like having your influence on my program really, has been huge for me, and I appreciate you coming on, talking to some of my athletes and stuff like that I work with MPU athletes. So, I had Nick on, what was it, about 2 weeks ago? It
was like 2 weeks ago, yeah.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago. Talked to my athletes, and, what I'm doing right now with my programs is I'm hosting, like, networking sessions. So I'm inviting people like yourself, people who were collegiate athletes, and, having them meet my people who I work with and who I help with the marketing aspect of things. So I wanted to, talk to you specifically because, I wanted to get your background so my audience can know first who you were, what you did in school and what you studied and what sport you were in. So take it away.
Yeah, so I'm originally from Berlin, Connecticut. Still live in Berlin, Connecticut. But I basically started out at going to Western New England till 2017. Yeah, 2017 was when we graduated high school.
2017, yeah.
Yeah, so went to Western New England where I met Jay. Did 4 years there, and then 2 grad years, which both me and Jay just graduated from the MBA program there, which is fantastic.
Shout out WNE.
Shout out WNE. But yeah, at Western New England, I was a wrestler. I wrestled all 5 years. 5 years on the wrestling team because of the extra year of eligibility. And I finished off my career a 2-time All-American, 3-time Scholar All-American, 3-time captain of the wrestling team, and a few other cool awards here and there. But it was really the athletics that really really kicked off in college, and everything else followed very nicely as far as school and academics. So it was awesome place to be.
Yeah, I couldn't say much more about it, man. My experience at Western New England was awesome, and it was cool to have you be a part of that journey, man. Like, I wanted to come on, have more of a casual conversation tonight because obviously we've been friends for 4 years, and people really don't know like the background, and after this, people still won't know some of the background to that friendship. But I wanted to bring you on because you're someone who really inspired me while we were in our college experience. Obviously we lived together from sophomore year of college, through our end of junior year. Obviously got cut short by COVID a little bit, and we were back home back in March. So it was, obviously awesome to go through that experience with you, man. Like, you were someone that I was coming up, in my own college experience, and you really guided me as far as what I had to do to, athletically, mentally, when we were on the field. Like, it was always, you weren't in football, so it was different. It was I got to look up to you because you were doing what you did in wrestling. So it was, cool to work with you there and get to share that experience with you while you were developing and coming up yourself. So ultimately that's really why I wanted to have you on, man. Like, to share some of those stories of like what we did together, like the nights we were grinding, like, I want to highlight some of that, and I think that makes your story unique. But first, man, like, talking about that career, you two-time All-American, right? Yep. And then 3-time, Scholar All-American. So performing in the classroom was always, I'd say, a strong suit of yours. While we were growing up, obviously we were in some of the same classes, and we, got to excel in the classroom together, right? What was that like for you as a wrestler in a D3 program, going through I would say, a more, prestigious business school, and, with all of our accreditations, we had to live up to a certain standard. What was that like being in your shoes at the time at Western New England, going through everything and still achieving all of that academic success?
Yeah, it's really funny. You never really know where the journey takes you, and I think so I started out my freshman year, I don't know if you remember this, but a civil engineer. And
no, I actually don't. Actually, no, I do remember.
Because I was on the 4th floor.
I do remember when you switched to business. But continue.
Yeah. I'll get to that part. So I started out as a civil engineer and realized very fast that I just did not have the brain. Not that I didn't have the brain for it, but I just realized it came a lot quicker to other people.
Yeah.
And I don't think I really truly understood what civil engineering really was prior, and maybe that was a lack of knowledge on my part when I first joined the school.
Sorry, we have squeaky chairs.
Yeah, we do have some squeaky chairs. But I started out as a civil engineer, and kind of went through a few stages in a few semesters where it was like I really don't know what I want to do, and ended up going into psychology because I thought it was very interesting to learn. Because I ended up having a psychology course my freshman year, first semester.
Yeah, I
don't know why, but had a psychology class and really liked learning about it. And this is towards my sophomore year. This is when we started living with each other. And I remember I was coming up towards the end of the semester where I really had to decide my full-on major, what I'm going to graduate in.
Right.
And I remember telling you, it was right after classes one day, and we were picking our courses, and I remember just thinking, I don't know what to do. I love psychology, but what am I going to do after college? And shout out to all the psychology majors. It's a lot of schooling to get through it. But I was kind of thinking, I'm like, I don't know if I want to do 4 more years after this, and this, that, and that.
Yeah.
I never forget it. You looked at me one day and you go, you like psychology, right? And I'm like, yeah. And you go, what'd you say? You go,
I said something around the lines of you like psychology and you like applying it to real world stuff. Well,
yeah.
Have you thought about marketing or management or something like that? Because
exactly. At
the time, when you were looking for programs and stuff, I was going through the marketing program at Western New England. So but I also started my own journey as an undecided freshman. So it was I had to find that happy medium of what I liked in business. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So you guided that, and I remember just looking into it and being like, "Oh my God, this is what I've been missing this whole time." I like socializing with people, and I think psychology is awesome, but I didn't think there was any route where I could apply it the way I could in business.
Right.
And once you kind of put that on my radar, I was like, "Oh my God, let's go through with this."
Yeah.
And honestly, the best decision I ever made, and I love it. It's
cool
to it now. So
just knowing that was kind of what influenced it at the time that's a cool story. You know what I mean? To sit back and look on it. But I remember those days, and then our first couple days in sophomore year, you were coming in, you're like, wow, I actually really love business. And then before you know it, it turns into classes with PowerPoints and classes with Excel, and before you know it, we were in a lot of the classes together.
Yeah, most of them. Yeah,
which was kind of crazy how you came in undecided. I came in undecided. I was obviously taking core classes, but you caught right up, and that's what I thought was pretty cool. Is a lot of your, your journey was a lot of the same that was mine in undergrad. So it was pretty cool going through that experience like together and like having those classes, because there was a lot of late nights where we were grinding, dude. Like I remember it, bro. We would look at each other like bug-eyed at like 2 a.m. Be like, what do we do? Like we were like looking at, like, it was crazy. I remember those nights, and like, but I feel like a lot of that translated to like a professional career though. Like both of us, I would say worked pretty hard in our field, and if you guys hear birds in the background, yes, I have a window open because I was hot as hell. So, sorry, it got a little steamy here in the MPU podcast.
It's like a sauna in here.
It's like a sauna, yeah, man. Which, that's pretty dope story. He actually has a sauna in his basement, which is like, that's sick. But anyways,
I have a nice little dojo basement.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about wrestling and just what you came up with and how you, because this kid's an animal. Short and simple though, like, going through that academic like success with you, and then going past and pursuing, our MBA together, which was pretty freaking sick, right?
Yeah.
Like, obviously, like, me and Nick went our own routes after junior year, which I still to this day was a little upset to do, because obviously it's my boy. And it was definitely hard going our own separate ways, but I think for the better, we got to really dial in with both of our teams and like teammates, and I think like a lot of real friendships and relationships got to come out of that. And I think that was like one of the most like cool things about Western New England, was that it was such a small school, but we all had like the same friend group, so we would always see each other out. We would always, every football game there, you'd see everybody you probably know. Same thing with wrestling. People would go watch the wrestling. People would go watch basketball. It's, a small little crowd in a sense, and you're building that like camaraderie with everybody. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Especially with like the athletics, like at the school, that's one thing that I thought was really awesome, is like everyone knew each other, and everyone, like, I remember just walking down the hall to practice, and like, even just the baseball kids and just the football kids, everybody willing to like give you a little high five on your way into the gym, or same with the football team too. It's like walking you guys out to practice and saying like, hell yeah, like, let's get it.
Yeah, that was one of the coolest things about going to a D3 school like that, was like we didn't have frats. We didn't have like the Greek life. We didn't really do that. So like our sports teams, in a sense, I don't want to say we're the frats, but they were like the small camaraderies that would, join together. But it was cool because like everybody was under Western New England, so it was like, we all had that one goal, is to win for Western New England, which you did a lot of in your day, man. Like,
hey, so did you guys. You guys over there in the football team were a lot of shoes to fill.
Definitely had a lot of years of success, both both teams. Shout out to Jeff Sullivan.
Yeah, Jeff Sullivan.
This is the third podcast, and I'm waiting for him to hit me up, because I know that he'll listen to it and he'll hear it in every single one.
Man.
Shout out to that guy, man. That dude literally instilled every little like, he brought out every last ounce of you as an athlete, and I'd say you knew it as a wrestler. I knew it as a football player. Like, every day was business with him, and that's what I think kind of shaped me as I moved into a professional career. Was every day is business, man. Doesn't matter how you conduct yourself. It's what's going on around you. How are you bettering yourself from a everyday life perspective, building good habits, right? Like, I think he brought the best out of us.
Yeah, and I really want to shout out Nick Connell too. Honestly,
Connell
the whole
man, for sure.
The whole CPC squad. So it was that COVID year. I remember looking for a gym, and I was fortunate that they took me in, and the workouts that they would put me through. Oh my God! Like, literally brought me next levels as far as strength and speed, and I owe a ton to those guys, and all they gave me, and even my athletic, like my social media platforms they helped me out with, and media, Kayla too. Shout out Kayla Kevner.
That's Kevner Creative, right?
Yes,
Kevner Creative. Shout out to her.
Oh my God.
She's talented, man. Check her out.
Yeah.
I've seen her stuff, as from like a media perspective, and she's got good stuff, man. Go check her out.
So all those peeps up there in Mass really helped me out and really build my own brand as an athlete towards that tail end, and really figure out like, all right, this is my story. How are we gonna tell it? And they helped me tell it.
That's cool, man. And
so
I thought that it was pretty cool, like, in a sense, from even my own business perspective, like, as far as like my production company went, like, you were one of the first athletes that I ever attempted to, do media production with. So I got to see how you moved, like, from your perspective, right? Like, wrestling is completely different from football.
Oh, yeah.
Like, as far as just, it's such an individualized sport there. It's just you and that other person, right? Like, in football, it's you and 11 and you and 10 other guys on that field, and that's something that was different. But I feel like we all shared that same just like mentality, and it was winning the day, winning the rep, whatever you were doing, right? And I think you were doing that whole time while you're at school. That was pretty cool.
No, 100%.
Yeah.
And like I think a lot of it is individualistic, like such an individualistic sport, but at the same time, like, that team aspect to it, you can't lose that, sight of that.
Yeah, dude.
Nothing beats being out there with your boys, and
for sure, man.
if they win, you win, and if they lose, you lose. So
there's days, man, I feel like we were preparing for like war, bro.
War.
Like, going into that locker room, it was like we were ready. You know what I mean? And that was like, I got to experience that in high school too, but it was completely different in college, man. Yeah. Completely different. And I know everybody that's going to be listening to this is going to feel that sort of just like what I'm feeling right now. It's like that, those almost like those goosebumps that are like, you knew it was that time. You know what I mean? And speaking of that time for you though, like you stepped out on the mat and you did a lot with your career, man. Just to give the audience a little background, you finished 7th in the country for the NCAA tournament your grad year, right?
Yeah,
and
grad
then,
year. First year grad year.
So NBA year, he finished 7th, and year before that though, the unfortunate story and tale of the COVID year and what happened there. You were out on that mat, national championship, like ready to go, national tournament, and they canceled it right then and there, right? Coming from your perspective, right? Like, this was junior year, right? The end of junior year right before we moved out of our house at that time. So like, go take this audience through what that was like for you. I know it's an uncomfortable topic, but I think one of the most important things is I like to highlight every story, right? Like all the ups and downs in your journey, and tell the audience a little bit about like what that was like for you having to go through that.
Yeah, that was nuts. You never think anything like that could happen. Yeah. But I was on having a really good season my junior year. Like, just I don't know what it was, what was in the water that year, but it was just nothing was stopping me that season. Yeah.
You started at 33, right?
Yeah, started at 33. Went the weight class 133. Just it was like, all right, we're gonna get down to 25 and we're gonna beat everyone. Like literally just beat everyone. And you were living with me at the time, so you were seeing it was locked in. And we had a wonderful team that year. Some returning national champs, and just being around those guys and living with those guys, and just seeing them and how they do. It was like, all right, you want this too.
Shout out John Boyle.
Yeah, shout out John Boyle and Ryan Montero. Yeah. But even the whole team in general, though, they were phenomenal. Like Justin DeLucia and a whole bunch of...
Your whole squad was a bunch of good dudes, man.
Yeah, we were killers.
You guys were all locked in together.
Yeah, and that's what made it a lot easier. Back to that team aspect is, just being with those guys and seeing what they're doing, and building off each other just to make each other better. And so we were, I came off for, one regionals, beat the number 1 kid in the nation for the second time, but this time it was... He beat him up, awesome kid though, awesome kid. And we were going into nationals 2 seed. It was a 2 seed, and I just remember feeling ready to go. Like I had that feeling. It was like, you're not leaving here unless you're a national champ. Like, and I'm not saying I haven't had that feeling before, but it was like, you're doing it. And
that's when you really started to believe. I mean,
it was just a belief aspect to it. You mix that in there, it was like you almost see it.
Well, you and Ryan were on the same sort of mentality. It was like
built off each other.
It was kind of crazy to see from an outside perspective, right? Like, I wasn't a wrestler, but I lived with 3 wrestlers actually. Shout out to Simi.
Yeah, Simi.
He would, all of you guys are wrestling, and seeing the mentality of you guys was just like, dude, it really opened up my eyes to just how you guys were training, what you're putting your bodies through day in and day out. And you guys, I knew that year. Obviously, we could say hypotheticals, but
Yeah,
dude,
hypotheticals. Yeah.
that was the year, man. I remember just so how like determined you were that year.
Yeah.
And it was cool to see that from a different sport because I felt empowered through my own journey through that. So,
Yeah.
once you were there, you know, talk like what happened.
Yeah, so I was literally on the treadmill getting my last workout and getting the last bit of weight off. It was coming off really good. The other two guys I was with, their weight was off, so they were chilling in the hotel room. And I had this notification pop up on my phone saying all NCAA events are canceled due to COVID. I remember thinking, like, this is a joke. Like, there's no way. Someone's messing with me here. So finished up my workout, went up to the room, and I could just see the look on some of the wrestlers' faces, like they were just moping around. And I'm like, that's not a weight cut kind of face, you know?
Right.
And they kind of just looked at me, were like shaking their heads, and I was like, oh no. And like went to the room, and one of my buddies was there, and he was like, dude, did you see it? I'm like, that's not real, is it? He goes, let's call into NCAA. So we called into NCAA and literally got like 2 headquarters on the phone. They
That's
were like,
pretty crazy.
Yeah, they were like,
this was when you were, say that again. So you were on the mat. You did
not on the mat yet. No, this was like the day before, the night before, literally
night before. So you're in the room, and damn, you called the NCAA. I didn't know
I literally called into the headquarters,
Wow.
like got them on the phone. And they were like, hey, I hate to break it to you, but yeah, this is true. All NCAA events, D1, D2, everything. And I remember just like, honestly, I don't want to say like my heart dropped. It just like you didn't know how to feel about it. You know, it's just one of those things like you don't know how to react.
The news didn't even drop yet, technically.
Technically,
right?
no.
Because a lot of the people didn't really know that yet.
Yeah,
right?
like it was literally just hitting the news, and I think all the events that was like the first thing that they did away with.
Yeah, so then
everyone knew COVID was a thing, but like no one really knew it was like that serious until that.
No one did, dude. Like that was one of the craziest things. But then then the next day, like leading up, like you guys went and warmed up, right? Like
no, that was it. We hopped on a plane the next day. Literally hopped on the plane the next day. Spent some time with the few of the wrestlers and the coaches, and
so that moment. So for the audience, that moment, from what I remembered, I thought you guys were warming up, getting ready.
No,
I was mistaken on that.
It's crazy.
So you found out the night before, and that's when you said everyone was just in that like monotone. Just everybody you knew in your division, other divisions, like you said, obviously hit everybody like a rock.
And I think that was the hard part about it.
Yeah,
it wasn't that my year was ended. Honestly, what hurt more was those senior kids, like all the seniors and people I were close with that were seniors, and my opponents that were seniors.
Right.
I just remember thinking like, oh my god, like that is their last shot to do the one thing that they'd always wanted to do, whether it's All-American, just go out there and just wrestle, or even just be a national champion like that. That was just taken away, and I think that was the hardest part about it. Knowing those kids never got a shot.
Yeah, man. I mean, from our perspective, like. We had, obviously, our next season was completely canceled at the time. Like, from my perspective, like, how it happened for us was, we were practicing with masks on. And, obviously, that was, like, everybody was doing that, right? So, it was, like, practicing with masks on. That was one of the craziest things ever. It was, like, so hard to breathe with that thing on. Oh, my God. Yeah, I'm sure you guys had to deal with some of the same thing. Like, having to like do all that was just nuts. But like once we found out, like more and more time was passing, and we were supposed to play games, but we didn't end up playing any games. So the way it happened was they told us like, all right, we're gonna have a season, and then it went to we had 3 games, right? They said, all right, we're gonna play a modified schedule. Then it went down to 3 games. Then it was 2. Then 1. Then it ended up being an inter-squad scrimmage because that's all we could do at the time. And our whole season got canceled. So it was like, ours was like a slow, dramatic pain where I feel like yours was like, all right, flip the script, But obviously it was, there's the same pain there, right?
Oh,
like,
100%.
but like,
Stinks no matter
but
what.
like
Yeah.
in the same sense too, is like ours was gradually like,
And ours was ripping off the Band-Aid.
yeah, yours was like rip off the Band-Aid, it's over. You
Yeah.
know? And I think that was like, for me, it was like so hard, like coming from like I was, obviously our senior year too, and
Yeah.
we wanted that season so bad because we knew with those guys in that locker room that we had a squad, man.
Yeah.
We were going out. We knew we were putting in work. Everybody was. It was top to bottom. At the our roster is huge. Top to bottom, everybody was working. Ones, twos, threes. The scout players, everybody was working for that season.
Yeah.
And part of what I wanted to highlight in this podcast episode, in a sense, was just some of that. And I know there's people out there that can relate to that. I know there is. And from what my story turned into was, I wasn't satisfied with that. I know you weren't either, because we both came back for grad school, right? Which, like, in a sense, right, wasn't just to play ball. Obviously the opportunity was there. We had, obviously great circumstances with Western New England. Shout out to their grad program for what they did for us. But that being said, it put us in a tough spot, man. Like, we wanted to keep continuing our career, and we also, obviously, grad school is expensive, and like that opportunity was there. They gave us eligibility. NCAA was good about that. But, you came back. You had that opportunity, and obviously I cut a career short to an injury, and that's it, man. Life moves on, But yeah, like that kind of story is just crazy in general. Like what you guys had to go through, just finding out you guys were in Iowa at the time.
Yeah, Iowa, Cedar Rapids. Yeah,
Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Imagine just being out in basically, you guys were like almost in a bubble, right? Because you guys were all in the same hotels, right?
Everyone, yeah. And that was the argument too. It was that side to it, like,
so like everybody could text.
We're here, yeah, we're here,
But like it was so new at the time. There's nothing, no signs out, no vaccine, nothing like that.
So it was just a weird time.
But besides COVID, I don't even want to talk about that anymore because I don't want this shit to get flagged. So, like, anyways. Regardless, what a career though. Coming back that last season, what I wanted to highlight was just talking about taking that next step in your life, right? That grad year, I think you took that next step in your life, right? You didn't obviously finish where you wanted to, and I know that was something that we talked about, and how you came to a close in your career that you were so like satisfied with, right? But also, yeah, you still, in a sense, where you had to bite your lip a little bit, but you felt good with where you were, right?
Yeah.
What was that like your last grad year? Coming up, the training, all of it. Get into the nitty gritty. I want to know about your weight cuts. I want to know about everything that literally pulled your last living nerve, dude. Tell about that last year.
Oh, man. Okay, we're going to be here a while. No, I think one of the big things that I came to terms with after, that the whole thing happened was, of course, it took a few weeks, not off, but like, it was still on the mat, still working out.
Yeah.
But like, some time to like recoup and realize like, okay, what's next? They kept saying like, oh, this will be cleared up for next year. This will be cleared up for next year. And, I did what I do best. I put the nose in the grindstone and, just kept moving, finding ways to wrestle. And
did you at any point doubt that? Doubt the future of like really what was to come? Because
of course.
So, like unknown.
Of course, and especially like honestly to kind of play into what you said about like the gradual burn and like like them like like okay, we're gonna do this and then now we're gonna do this. I think that was more that was kind of taxing because they kind of not in general. I think the whole thing, whether it was the news, whether it was. There was just so much uncertainty everywhere, that, like, I think that was kind of taxing.
Yeah.
But, just being around some people that really were like, dude, just keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
They don't stop. And, just believing in those people and what they're telling me to do.
100%.
That's what kind of really got me through that part of it.
Yeah.
And I remember we were at work one day, and, I remember just thinking, I'm like, there's no way, based on where we're at now, that we're going to have a season next year. And we're getting a call, them saying like, "Hey, look, they're not having a season next year." And I remember sitting at work like, "Oh my God, like there it is, there it is." kept going, kept moving, kept getting back to work.
Still gotta grind.
Still gotta grind. Like, yeah, there was no way you were stopping me. It was just like, okay, let's talk to friends, the family, the coaches. There is no year. What are we gonna do afterwards?
Yeah.
And just the opportunity presented with the MBA program, and realistically, I didn't know what I wanted to do yet, and it was super cool to get presented with that opportunity because I was never like the most studious kid, and I did well in school. Don't get me wrong.
Well,
but
I think we were right around the same. Like, we were at like that 3.2, 3.3, say maybe a 3.5 if we were pulling off a good semester or something like that.
Yeah.
No 4.0s, but we were grinding hard.
I actually had one sneak in.
Did you
last two semesters? Yeah.
Pardon me.
Heck yeah.
4.0 to end it, man. That's
no. It took a long way to get there, but
that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
My apologies. He was a 4.0 student.
No.
But damn, dude, made me feel like shit about myself. No, I'm just kidding.
No.
But regardless, I pulled a 3.5 in grad school, and that was cool. Like, getting to study with you, man. It was cool to see how your brain worked. My brain worked differently, and
that's the cool part about it.
That's the cool part about it. Like, that's why we're sitting here to get it today, dude. And that's one of the cool things.
Yeah, but yeah, grad school presented itself, and it was just almost like, hey, like that's an opportunity you may not get, 2, 4, 10 years down the road. So might as well just jump on it, and just made sense too. So no matter if that season were to happen or not, I would have been ready to go for the following season. And that was kind of like the talk too, is like, they gave the double eligibility. So even if we did have a season the following year, or my senior year, we still would have had eligibility for that last year. So it was almost like, hey, look, that's 2 years, to maybe become a 3-time All-American.
Right.
You never know. And, although they gave us that call and said like, hey, it's going to be canceled, I remember thinking like, hey, there may still be some opportunities. So
yeah, you never give up hope.
Yeah, you never give up hope. And that was the one thing I did very well, is never give up hope. Of course, there was those moments where you take 5 minutes, be angry.
Yeah.
But you get back to work after. That's it. You leave yourself 5 minutes.
Yeah, man.
That was it.
I would say that was one of the things that you taught me. Was like taking that moment for yourself to recuperate, right? Like,
yeah, think.
For me, my ending of my career was such in a blink of an eye, right? Like, and I know there's going to be some people that listen to this that can relate to that. I didn't have time to think about that, right? Like, I still am to this day, even though I'm so comfortable with where my career ended up and what I'm doing now, still to this day makes me uncomfortable. You know what I mean? Just how things didn't end the way I wanted them to, right? But it turned into an opportunity and a journey that, to be quite honest with you, I wasn't ready for.
Yeah.
And looking at where I'm at now, I'm so grateful for what I went through that year, right?
Yeah.
Like, there was nights, dude, I was going through the NBA with my torn pec, thinking that there was still hope. Like, if I went through physical therapy, like, I could recuperate. But no, it didn't. It didn't happen. And I still to this day struggle with strength in it. Like, I still have limitations. There's still things that I need to do every single day to be able to perform athletically, be able to do anything. Like, I have to stay loose. I have to do all this stuff,
Well, you laid it out on the line, though,
Right. I did. And it was, 2 days before my training camp, and that was it. Boom. Like, that was it, dude. And I never looked back as far as, what that, dude, I went to every single practice that year. Every single practice, every single game, knowing that my career was over. Right? And I sat there, and sometimes, dude, I would just get in my car after and take a long drive home and I'd bawl my eyes out, bro. It was one of the hardest things ever, dude.
Accepting that's hard,
was just accepting that,
Yeah.
But I think there's so much that, like, good that came out of that,
Makes you who you are, yeah.
It makes me who I am today, right? Like, after that life-changing moment is who I am today, right? And I think some of the journey that I want to highlight is who you are today, like what you're doing with your life, what you're doing with your career now. You went through all those things, and obviously you learned a lot, right? How has wrestling in general for you how has wrestling for you helped translate some of the lessons into your career and what you're doing today?
Yeah, I think truthfully, actually, a lot of that had to do with my last year is when it really started to come together. And I feel like you never really know how much your athletic career really has so much to do after life until you reach that point.
Yeah.
And, when all that stuff happened, just putting my nose in the grindstone, just going after it. And I think one of the things I did very well my last year was leave no stone unturned. And it was never that moment where it's like, okay, you're dwindling down. I ramped it up, towards the end. And I think doing that over and over again on a day in, day out, even like an hourly minute, even a minute, like down to the minute.
Yeah.
Being so disciplined in the things I did, whether it was what I ate. Precise, very, whether it was my weight cut, what I was eating, my workouts, what I was doing during my workouts, talking to my coaches, figuring out better ways to do things, and always constantly improving.
Yeah.
And just getting down to those nitty gritties. And I think because I did that, it just becomes so ingrained in me over time.
Yeah.
And I was doing it when I was young too. Since I was a very young age. I've been wrestling since first grade and been doing it over and over again. But it wasn't until that year where it was like, it's almost like muscle memory.
Yeah. 100%.
Just brain wise.
Routine.
Yeah, just routine. Whether it was what time I woke up for bed or even just when I went to sleep.
A good routine.
Yeah. What time I brushed. It got pretty bad sometimes. I have a little bit of OCD, so it was like sometimes how I brush my teeth, and if one thing was off, it'd be like, oh my God, then the world. But then you'd have to calm yourself down and be like, all right, come on, man. That's
there was a lot of that, dude.
Minuscule
I saw it when we lived together.
Yeah.
I mean, when we were living together, you would write little affirmations and stuff.
Right.
And you'd follow them and stuff, and I saw it, and you were living life by a code, and I think that's a good way to live, right? Having discipline. And some of those workouts, man, there were some rough days, man. Back in school, for the audience that's listening, I've never seen someone suffer. I've never seen in person suffrage, right? But what a wrestler goes through when they are cutting weight is damn near, I'd say, in my opinion, suffrage almost. Because there's certain things that you need to force yourself to do, right, in order to cut weight, in order to make it, right? Because it's first of all frowned upon, right? If you come in way overweight. Oh yeah. You wouldn't be able to wrestle technically in that weight class, correct?
Nope. Never missed weight.
Right.
That's your first opponent. Is the scale.
Is your scale. So, what was that like, man? What was going through your head? I will never forget it. You came home one night and you were eating mints. You were eating mints, right? Because it was just something.
Associating,
It was just something to get it, and you little water, and you're right there, just about to make weight. And then you made weight, and then you eat, obviously whatever you need to. But what is that like going through that moment, right? When your head and you're 0.2, 0.3 off.
As weird as it sounds, it's kind of calming.
Really?
It's you get what you need, and it's you got to think straight through it. There's no time where you could divvy off and eat. Okay, I can eat 3 pieces of bread, or just stuff you shouldn't be eating in, as an athlete in general. And
that discipline.
It's discipline, and it was just in that moment, you just think, okay, what do I need right now? How can I keep most of my energy without disposing a lot of energy? Mm-hmm. What's going to help me do this as efficiently as possible? And it, towards the end of it, it was like a science, doing it so long.
Were some of your coaches during that time talking you through that science, or were you really just diving in and doing what worked for you?
I kind of so everybody's different,
Yeah, everybody's bodies are different.
Everyone's bodies are different, and I think.
By the way, this kid's freaking jacked, and looks like he's in season form, dude. It's kind of crazy. All right,
But yeah, it was my sophomore year where I really started diving into it, and I struggled with weight growing up, and I maybe cut a little bit too much weight than I probably should have, but
yeah, that was part of the learning.
That was the learning process, and it was my sophomore year where it was really okay, you want to be down at this weight, this is where you're going to succeed, but at the same time, if you're going to do it, you got to do it right.
Yeah.
And that's when I kind of want to say nerded out, but kind of really just went down the rabbit hole to figure out what works best
With
for
the
my body.
science.
Yeah, like what I can do. And
Yeah.
towards the tail end, I could honestly say I actually ate more while I was cutting weight
Yeah.
than I was when I wasn't.
Wow.
I think a lot of it was I was burning off a lot,
Yeah.
and working out like a madman. You need the fuel.
It's just different. Like.
Oh yeah.
I mean, for football, I cut down from 207 to by the end of the season I was 192. So it was like that for me. I was sucked out. Like, I was like, wow, I look skinny right now. But like you were doing it on a weekly basis.
Oh,
like,
weekly, yeah.
What would you fluctuate from usually? Like when you were fighting at 33, and then when you were 25.
Ooh.
What was your fluctuation?
You talking
Like,
senior
what would you-
year?
Well-
Because I grew a little bit like throughout the time.
Okay,
Whether
so
it's getting muscle.
senior year.
That was probably my biggest cut. So
Yeah.
I was walking around like 142, 141.
Yep.
And like I said, like clockwork. Just like I had it down to science, and making 125 was.
Yeah.
It was hard a few times, and obviously, if I were to do it a full season, I'd obviously have a little bit more issues. But,
Yeah.
my coaches really did a good job at, helping me through that, and my partners. Oh my God, my partners.
Yeah.
To just like let me just do my thing, wrestle,
Yep.
get the weight off. Like they were troopers. Everyone was phenomenal,
That's cool.
helping me get to where I need to go. And
Yeah.
I don't recommend that to everyone. I think I was just one that my coaches always said it like. You shouldn't be cutting weight. It's of course like a pound or two is good, but
You should be sitting somewhere that you're comfortable, right?
yeah. And I was just one of the few kids where they trusted to do it. You
So you
know,
didn't really have to do it as much in college. Yeah, you had to, but like you weren't doing those serious.
no,
cuts.
no garbage bags,
Yeah,
none of
nothing
that.
like that.
No, I
and
was never
for the
doing it that
audience,
bad.
Yes, I prefaced this conversation with something that sounded extreme. It
Yeah.
wasn't like you were like killing yourself, but it was literally like, I would see you in the sauna grinding, and there was a lot of the wrestlers.
Yeah,
grind, was getting in the
volunteer
sauna
suffrage.
Yeah, volunteer, but like
suffrage.
you were doing it for a purpose, though.
Oh,
I
yeah,
had
100%.
every move was calculated, which you taught me that growing up, and it was
Yeah.
like every move was calculated for your wrestling, and then now it's transforming to every move is calculated in your professional career.
Oh, 100%.
And I saw that. Like we went to a networking event together, and Nick is a good friend of mine, obviously, and was like, "Come down with me and just see what it's like." And now I found my financial advisor out of that meeting. I found potential clients out of that meeting, and a lot came from it in one session, right?
Yeah.
Stuff like you're doing now, right? Like I'm trying to teach my athletes that I work with. These are the types of connections you got to be making, right? Like if you want to excel in your career, it's not always about what you do. It's about who you know and how you can maneuver those relationships and making those connections, right?
Yeah.
So that's something that I'm trying to stress to my athletes right now, because I feel like that's an important topic. Important that a lot of young athletes and a lot of college athletes understand the importance of making connections, because you can be the greatest player on the field. If you can't communicate with somebody on your team, that's how all your mistakes happen, pretty much. If you can't communicate with yourself, with your coach, with all of that, like communications is very key into a successful career, and I think that was something that you embodied well.
Yeah. That's something I kind of learned throughout the years. Well, I'm actually I graduated with communication minor.
Really?
Fortunately,
so I had
yeah.
a communications minor, and I had to drop it.
They almost made me drop it. I grinded. I said no way and took 2 summer courses to get that thing going.
That's dope, man. I mean, I
tried.
Yeah, I didn't do that. I should have, but like I was like 6 credits short, and I was like,
yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot.
Take a summer class. I knew I was doing my MBA, so it's like,
yeah.
All right, why not just drop it? But I learned a lot in those communications classes, though.
Exactly. No matter what, if you're those are cool stuff.
But like seeing all this now, like kind of on a less career topic.
Yeah.
You see, some of the leagues like the UFC. And I know there's some guys that you probably look up to, some that were graduated from our school. And, when you're looking at like a professional sport like that, how does that, there's UFC fighters that were wrestlers. There's UFC fighters that do jiu-jitsu. So it makes it entertaining to watch, right? when it's at their level, do you think a lot of like the most successful people that are in like the UFC and stuff like that are getting that success from the science that they have and the coaching, the training that they have, or do you think some of these people are freak athletes?
I think it's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
I don't want to say necessarily they're freak athletes. Some of them are. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Some of them just have this will to just want to win and just determined to tackle anything that's in their way.
Yeah.
And I think they're willing to do anything to get there. Find the people, get the right people on the bus to get there. Find the right
That's
gym.
A good quote.
Yeah.
That's a good quote.
Shout out that
Good to
book.
Great.
Good to Great.
Good to
Love
Great,
that book.
Yep.
That was one
Jim
of my favorite
Collins,
books.
right?
Yep. Jim
Yep.
Collins.
Yep.
Yep. We were actually talking about it the
That's
other day.
a great
So
book, dude. Like,
fantastic.
that was one of my favorite books in college.
Yeah.
But regardless, you were saying getting the right people on the bus.
Getting the right people on the bus. That's essentially what it is. And I think, that's just kind of just things that just fall into place when you're
100%.
chasing things down like that. And
Yeah, and I think that's something that's translating here, right? Like,
yeah.
I've considered you and always will consider you someone that was on my bus, right? Like, we're on that bus together no matter where we go, what we do. We're always going to be boys and friends. And I think that's the cool thing that my audience is going to get to hear tonight is more so of that. Just like I felt before, like obviously I interviewed my boy Tyshawn and I interviewed my old strength coach and all that, but I had to be very, it was more of a business interview and, obviously, and with us, I feel like there's that true like bond and friendship.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think that's just cool about it. And it's just like seeing both of our perspectives of what we went through and how we did it was something that I wanted to highlight in this pod because it was a journey to say the least, man. There's many nights that we
grinding that out, yeah.
Grinding and having fun.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's just cool to see that perspective and how we've come up together, dude. One of the things I've been asking a lot of my guests that come on is, what is your 5-year goal and 10-year goal for where you are, from where you are now? You're 23 and and when do you turn 24 again?
Actually, I am 24.
You are
Holy
24,
cow.
dude.
Oh my
Wow,
god.
what the heck? Yeah, bro. I was
Forget
like, wait
my
a
own
minute, you
age,
were
yeah.
in February?
Yeah, I'm
You were
24 now.
February, right?
Yep,
Or
21.
21. And
24.
you were in February, right? Birthday?
March. March 17th, St. Patrick's Day. Yeah,
bro.
Nice birthday, right?
My birthday.
I am literally
we're boys, I promise.
No, I swear. I am literally the worst with birthdays.
Nah, bro, June 30th next month.
June 30th?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll remember that. I'll get you a little something.
Put that in your calendar.
It's funny.
Let's go play some golf.
Yeah. I have a...
Speaking of now, just like the golf, man. Golf.
Oh my god, don't even get me started on the golf.
Man. It is... We are god awful, but...
I just shot 60 and I was so proud of myself.
Shot a 60?
Yeah.
Wait. For 9 or
18? 9.
All right.
Yeah.
That's.
No, but in all fairness, this is like my first like real game where like no real mulligans, like didn't lose a ball, like so happy and thrilled.
Oh man, dude. Do you have 18 birdies? Have you ever heard of that?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Download 18 birdies. This is not a promo. Download 18 birdies, dude. You can literally log every single round that you do, and it shows you the yardage while you're playing. And you can like join up with your boys, and you could keep a scorecard on there. You could do all that. It shows you like the yardage, the distance, all of that. So it's actually pretty cool.
My boys are a little too good for me to hop in a game with them like that.
Well, I mean, but it helps you understand the game and just like see the yardages and what clubs to be hitting and stuff like that. You got to come out with me, man. Like, you should come out with me and my younger brother.
I'd love to play with Anthony and pick his brain. He is an animal.
Dude, he's
a tank.
Animal. For people that don't know who Anthony is, Anthony's my younger brother. He is a junior in high school right now. He's in golf and football. He's currently a stud in golf, stud in football too, but golf he's determined and narrows down, wants to go to college, right? So my program, MPU Athletes, I develop people's stories, right? So something that Nick actually came up with, which is pretty cool, is build your story, right? Build your story through NPU, and that kind of stuck with me because I am helping people build their stories through my creation, through my content, right? Like, in a sense, we're building a story for you here, right? Like in the narrative that I want to bring around my programs and just highlight, right? You kind of had that influence on it, so it's cool. But I'm working with Ant and just helping him develop now. So he started golf obviously his freshman year, and we're going year by year. We get film for him. We do, I'm working on getting him some potential marketing deals moving forward as he goes into college. Like, it's all part of the process. NIL, I'm sure you've heard of NIL a little bit. That's something that I'm going to be developing for my athletes as we move forward with my program. As you may know, I have a merchandise line that's connected to Nanfido Productions. So that merch is essentially what's going to be offered to them when they get to college. They have the opportunity to make sales through my company, and they're going to get the profits from that. So giving them a real-world opportunity that I personally wasn't a part of in college, but I saw the opportunity once it was available, right? So that was something that I wanted to offer to that college athlete. We had those broke nights. We were in the Dollar General parking lot.
Dollar General, my Lord and Savior.
Tell that story, bro. Tell that story.
which
The Dollar General one where we were sitting, or no, it was a Dollar Tree, and we were counting our quarters.
Oh, the quarter counting. I think we started to rip out the pennies. I think that was that.
We were broke. We'll preface that, right? We were broke, college kids, and obviously, everybody is broke when you're in college, and we were sitting out there counting our quarters, and there was those late nights that we were looking at each other. We were like, all right, we got to do something about this, right? And now I'd say we found success in it.
Yeah.
But, dude, there were some fun times that we got to experience while we were in college, and I was happy to be a part of it with you, man.
Yeah.
It was cool. But back to 5-10-year goals. I'll let you hit those notes.
Ooh, the 5-year, 10-year goals. This is something I'm still developing. So I just to kind of fill everyone in, I started working a year ago on a sales team, and awesome sales team.
ADP, right?
Yep.
Nice.
Awesome leader, Casey Phelps. He is phenomenal, and just all the other leaders on the team, that just being around some studs, when it comes to what they're doing is phenomenal. Culture.
I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you, we learned this stuff in school.
Oh yeah.
It is all about your culture.
And we got some really cool stuff going on there. But yeah, 5 years down the road, there's a lot of growth in this company. But I think one of the things I always try to keep in mind is, always being open. There's opportunity everywhere, and it's so hard to put my finger on where I want to be 5 years.
Position, right?
Exactly, that's the hard part. Is
right.
I'm so new to it, and
position for those that don't know.
Yeah, like a year ago, or same role.
You just gotta
Yeah, it's the same, basically the same role, just
same role.
Yeah, steps up.
Yeah. And that's cool. And but I mean, you want to just keep developing, right? Like
exactly,
I
just
set
developing
a 10-year
and
roadmap for myself, which I thought was beneficial to my future and my career. In this 10-year roadmap, I don't know if I'm going to hit everything, right? But
of course,
each year is a stepping stone of where I really want to be in 10 years. So that was just something I did. But
yeah, no, I have ideas of where I want to be.
Yeah.
Just certain things that I know I will do at some point to get there, and even things I'm doing now, and
well, now you're assistant coaching for Western New England.
Yeah, assistant coaching, helping up a whole bunch of athletes, and
so you're giving back to a community you were once part of. Right?
Exactly,
and that is right back to my point: getting the right people on the bus. Right, that's the same thing I'm doing. Just with my company and just how I've been maneuvering is bringing the right people on the bus, people that have the same goals as you, right? Finding those same goals, people that have the same aspirations, that want to achieve success. And if you surround yourself with success, 9 times out of 10, if you're doing the right things, you're going to be successful, right? And I think
100%.
That's something that I'm focusing on for the next 10 years is just surrounding myself with guys like you and surrounding myself with women that are, empowering women and people that are working towards a goal and working towards life aspirations, right? And I think that's something that you are too. So
yeah,
I'm excited to see where you go, man. It's been a journey, dude, and I'm happy that we got to highlight some of our stories tonight and get a little background on Nicholas Arborio.
Yeah,
former roommate, former 7th ranked wrestler in the country for D3 wrestling, and it's been an honor, man. Thank you for coming out tonight, man.
Ain't the last time, I'll tell you that. So.
He will be on the pod at some point again, for sure.
So, we'll figure something out.
Dope, man. MPU Podcast, Episode 3, Nicholas Arborio. We talked about a lot, and yeah, man, thanks for tuning in and seeing one of my good friends that I got to grow up with. Thanks.